Thank you. I just want to pick up where Senator Cornyn sort of left off. He's been a great person to try to work with to find a solution to our immigration problems, but what we're dealing with on the Senate floor is not an immigration issue. To my Democratic colleagues, I've worked with many of you on solutions to immigration, comprehensive immigration reform. We are now having to deal with a broken border from a national security lens. 172 encounters that we know of people on the terrorist watch list, and FY21 it was 15, so it's going through the roof. So we got to get control of our border for our own national security's sake. Terrorism's on the rise, the world is on fire. Now's not the time to have a broken border. And the numbers are really astounding. In September, we had the highest encounters at the border in recorded history. In December of 2020, we had the lowest in decades. And FY23, which ended September the 30th, 2.5 million people. Since President Biden's been in office, 6 million people. That's larger than the state of South Carolina. So one of two things are going on regarding the border. The Biden administration wants it to be this way for some reason, or they're incompetent. If they're incompetent, they need to listen to people who've actually tried to secure the border successfully and work with us to get it done. If they want it to be this way, it's going to end if you want money for other countries. I have been involved in about every gang there is on immigration reform, but I'm here to tell my Democratic colleagues, I'm not going back to South Carolina and say, I provided money for Ukraine and Israel, which I desperately support, unless we fix in a real way the problems at our border. That's unsustainable for me. Speaker of the House was just addressing the Republican Senate. I think he understands the need for Ukraine funding, but he says border security has to be real for the House Republicans to be able to do what they need to do. To my Democratic colleagues, you're fighting us in a way that makes no sense to me. I understand why we should send money to Ukraine. You had me at hello. I understand why we need to help our friends in Israel. I don't understand why you fight the changes that would bring back order out of chaos. Is that the position of the Democratic Party, that the policies that led to this overwhelming surge of illegal immigration are not subject to change? We're not going to vote for legislation that doesn't stop what's on this chart, period. Look at the line. FY20, 458,000 encounters. FY23, 2.5 million. It's got to stop. Look at the asylum systems being completely gamed. It's become a joke. It needs to stop. Parole. We've had some major efforts to reform asylum. Senator Lankford's doing a good job. To my good friend Senator Bennett, I want money for Ukraine. I support Ukraine funding. I think a lot of Republicans do, but we got to have real reform on the border. And your statement that Ukrainian aid should be separate and apart from border is not going to happen. So parole is meant to be a case-by-case analysis based on two things. There was an urgent humanitarian reason for the person to come in under parole, or significant public benefit, any alien applying for admission to the United States. That's the law. It's being abused. Past administrations granted parole in a handful of cases. There had to be an urgent humanitarian reason, or the individual in question had to provide a significant public benefit. The Biden administration is using the parole statute to allow people in by the hundreds of thousands without any individual analysis, in my view. So all I'm asking you to do is follow the law. Quit using the parole statute to allow hundreds of thousands of people in violation of the law. If we went back to what the law says, most of this would stop. Secretary Mayorkas, here's what he said to Senator Lankford. We need the ability to remove individuals who do not qualify for asylum with efficiency and speed. Why are so many people coming? Word is out that if you get into America, you ask for asylum, you never leave. We release you into the interior of the country. Years pass before your asylum claim is heard, and you're here in America and you never leave. We have to change the asylum laws so that you actually have to apply the first safe third country you pass through, not just here in America. And we should not release you until your claim has at least been adjudicated at the initial stages. 90% of asylum claims are eventually denied, so clearly the screening system needs to change. So, long story short, we're not going to pass a supplemental that doesn't have policy changes to dramatically stem the flow at the border. This is not an immigration negotiation. There's not going to be a DREAM Act provision attached to this. This is about locking the border down in a fashion to give the public confidence that as a nation we have the ability to secure our own border. To all my friends on the other side and on this side who have negotiated immigration reform in the past, President Biden's irresponsible handling of the U.S.-Mexican border has made it virtually impossible to do an immigration deal anytime soon. No Republican in their right mind would vote for a comprehensive immigration bill until the Democratic Party can prove that they're capable of securing the border. Everything we've worked for all these years has been lost. Your approach to the border during the last 3 years has made it impossible to do immigration reform until we first secure the border, not as part of an overall effort to deal with immigration, but you need to prove to us and the people of the United States you can and will secure our border. Until you do that, no deal. How this ends, I don't know. I just know this. I'm okay with aid to Ukraine. I'm more than okay with aid to Israel. I am insisting on border security that's meaningful. I'm not asking for H.R. 2. I'm not asking for everything I would do to secure the border if I were king of the country. But I've been around this issue enough to know what works and what doesn't. The policy changes we're insisting upon regarding asylum and parole need to be implemented to regain control of our border, and that's not too much to ask. Madam President, I look forward to working with our colleagues on the other side and you to find a way to help Israel, who are in dire straits, find a way to keep Putin from going past Ukraine, bring some sanity back to the world, but you're going to have to work with us. And we're not looking for half measures. We're smart enough on our side to know what works. And I'm not into doing a deal that doesn't work. With that, I yield the floor.